Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles Lung. With me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, and good friend, Kanye West. How you doing today, Kanye?
Charlie, I'd like to apologize. Kanye West could not make an appearance today.
Oh, what?
He's too busy being famous and things.
And rich and crazy? Really crazy? He's crazy. And having a daughter? Does he have one daughter? He's got more than one daughter. He's got more than one kid. I don't know.
I don't follow Kanye West to know this enough.
I follow him every day on the street. I stalk Kanye West. But that's besides the point. I have a TV show to pitch today.
You do?
Yeah. It is an old TV show. Why? Because that's what we do every day. Every day of our lives, we write and pitch TV show ideas that will never, ever be picked up because we are not rich or famous or related to Taylor Swift or anyone else rich or famous.
But most importantly, Taylor Swift.
Most importantly, she has all the power in Hollywood. I don't know if you knew that. Taylor Swift actually owns Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
this would make a lot more sense if I didn't cut out the cold open.
Or if we had recorded our off-air conversation about Taylor Swift.
We talked a lot about Taylor Swift.
We talked about her for like 5 minutes, but that's besides the point. We
talked about her for 40 minutes.
What? 14 minutes.
37 minutes we talked about Taylor Swift.
Oh, Jesus. And we just love her so much. We love her and her...
I don't know if the conversation was really in that direction.
No, it was all love and affection for Taylor and her Scrooge McDuck, like...
All right, let's keep
piles
going
of
here.
money. This is a TV show that I've had on the back burner for a very long time. I actually wrote this like last year, and it's in my old notebook. I've since moved to a newer, bigger notebook that you know about. The audience doesn't know, but my old notebook still.
Yeah, they really care about your goddamn notebook.
They still have a good.
Can you just get to the fucking story, please?
All right, so it's about two men living together, but it's not gay. But it's about two men. No, it's not.
Thanks for telling us. That was really needed to know.
This show is called Drop Off Dangerously. All right, that's the name. I actually have a title for it. Drop Off Dangerously, and it follows Lance Figger and Jennifer Toobin as they make a drop. They drop something off, and it's dangerous. So
these are really stupid names. Lance Finger?
Figger, F-I-G-U-R.
F-I-G-U-R.
Mm-hmm. Figure. Yeah.
Figure.
Lance Figure is a mechanic who lives in the gutter city. Now, I'm gonna explain.
The other one was dumb too. I wasn't done there.
Okay, sorry.
Was it Jessica Simpson?
Yes, it's Jessica Simpson. No, it's Jennifer Toobin, and you can't make fun of Toobin because I took Toobin from a real-life actor, Jeffrey Toobin.
I can still make fun of Toobin.
Yeah, you can. It's fine. Jennifer is a taxi driver who was initially hired to drop something off dangerously. But in this futuristic 1970s inspired cyberpunk dystopian universe, I know it's hitting
classic Charlie.
It's hitting all my buttons, all my switches and dials to get me ready and raring to rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of switches and dials in this.
There's so many switches, so many dials. There's nothing digital.
I can bet you that if this was animated or live action, there would be no touchscreens.
No touchscreens whatsoever. It's all going to be dials and switches and buttons. Everything lights up when you press it. Oh, it's so good. So tactile. I love that word, tactile. Tactile future. So, in this tactile future, the world has been quote-unquote destroyed, annihilated, fucked up, beyond repair, and all of humanity is relegated to these tube cities, right? So, instead of one huge city, they have these basically enormous neighborhoods that are built into these large indestructible tubes that are just on the wasteland. And there's 3 separate sections of these huge tube cities, right? There is the regular city, which is you know, it's at the top, towards the top of the tube, and it's got artificial sunlight and artificial moonlight, you know, to keep the people who live there relatively normal. And then underneath, and that's where like middle class people live, right? That's where the people who, the water purifier workers and the people who are, you know, growing the food for these cities, that's where they're living, you know? The people who, lawyers and doctors, stuff like that, right? And then
okay, got a lot of big middle class there.
There's a big middle class. The middle class is the biggest class, right? That should be. In any functioning society, the middle class should be the largest class. But this is not a functioning society. So the actual largest class lives in the gutter city, which is underneath of the middle class city. And it's basically just an entire civilization made up of low rent housing and tiny apartment buildings, right? Mm-hmm. And this is where a majority of the people who live in this society live, all stuffed together, you know, shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, in these tiny little apartment complexes that are like 6 by 6 by 6, you know, square feet, not very large. And then way underneath of both the middle class normal cities and the gutter cities is the Undercity. Now, the Undercity, unlike most typical science fiction works, the Undercity is where all of the richest of the rich boys live, right? This is where
That's where Richie Rich lives, right?
This is where Richie Rich lives with Kanye West and Dave Grohl and Taylor Swift. They're all living together, holding hands, being happy that they don't have to do...
it's their own little sitcom show down there.
Yeah. But they're all really happy that they don't have
Everybody Loves Raymond. Everyone loves Kanye.
Everybody loves Kanye. Yeah, that's a good... you know what? I would watch a TV show that just started.
I bet Kanye probably made that show for himself. Yeah. And plays it every night before he goes to bed.
He got scanned by Industrial Light and Magic. They scanned him and put him inside of a 3D animated sitcom with his best friends, Taylor Swift and Dave Grohl, the two best music, and they have a superstar.
Pretty sure him and Taylor Swift don't have a very amiable relationship.
Nah, they've gotten over that little spat they had at the music award place. What was it? Was it the Grammys? Is that the music awards?
I remember he did something kind of mean where he put her in like a video.
Oh, yeah.
Like a wax doll of her in a video.
No, I don't know. I didn't pay attention. But they're all living together. That's not even the point. You're missing the point entirely. So, in the Undercity, this is where the really rich politicians, bureaucrats, people who are in charge of making the world function live. And it's a very small population. Basically, a large version of a gated community where they have their own artificial sunlight and artificial moonlight, and they have grass and stuff and trees, things that are wholly unreasonable to expect in either the city or the gutter city, right?
Okay.
You know, nature. They have pets that they don't just have to eat, right? And then, so that's what happens. That's the universe we found ourselves in these enormous tube cities. So, in this universe, there are not just a couple of tube cities. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of tube cities that are spread all across the wasteland, right? And this story starts in City 192, right? And follows Lance Figure, a mechanic who's living currently in the gutter city, repairing the flying vehicles and autonomous delivery drones for the Undercity. You know, he's working for the really rich, fixing their stuff for them, making sure that the city runs effectively. But he's not happy. He's poor. He's, maybe a relative of his is sick, something. They've got an illness. I don't know. He's got some family problems. His daughter.
Maybe they all sleep in he has 4 grandparents, and they all sleep in one big cot in the middle of the room.
One big
and
cot.
One day, there's a contest on the back of a chocolate bar. He wins it. And then he gets to go to the lower city and meets a man who like gives him the factory, and it's Johnny Depp for some reason, but it's also Gene Wilder.
Yeah,
That's
and
weird.
then Amber Heard shows up and tries to cut both their faces off. But that's
just Johnny Depp,
Just
not
Johnny
Gene
Depp's
Wilder,
face.
because he's already dead.
yeah, really
Really?
easy to cut his face off because he's dead.
You just have to go to the
R.I.P.
grave.
Gene Wilder.
All right, what's up with Mr. Lance here?
I was just gonna say maybe he's got a daughter. He's got a terminal illness, and he's unable to afford the medication that's required for her to survive. Right. So he's looking for a way to make some quick cash, you know. But he's a moral guy. He believes in the inevitable righteousness that humanity has in its very core. He believes that people are good, you know, at their very core, they're good. And then our second main character is Jennifer Tubin. They're two dudes, I should say. Jennifer is a man because this is the future, and Jennifer can be a man's name. Jennifer Tubin is a taxi driver. He lives in the city, the upper city, you know, the big city where all the middle class people live, and spends his time delivering people places. Right? Somebody flags his taxi down in the upper city and says, "I need to go to the undercity." He'll make that trek, gutter city, all these places. He travels the length and breadth of this tube city and has been outside of his own tube city, 192, and has seen the greater world and has realized that humanity is not good. He's become a cynical, angry, misanthropic person who's, you know, experiences
Because
in
his
life.
parents named him Jennifer a bit.
What? No, it's cool. That's a man's name now in this future. It's a man's name now in this future.
There's some underlying tension there.
Yeah,
He got
maybe.
picked on at school.
Maybe, but
No, it doesn't have to be. I'm just saying.
Jennifer figured out how to live tough, you know? And one day, while making a normal delivery of a person to the Undercity, he's stopped by this, like, haggard, you know, injured-looking man, and, you know, given 1,000... What unit of currency should we give this universe? Because I never like it when in sci-fi universes they're like, credits, give me some units, please. I think that's lame, you know? What currency should we give to this universe? What should we call it?
Marks.
Marks? All right. He's given 10,000 marks at the beginning, you know, along with this package, and told there'll be 100,000 more if he's able to make this delivery of this package, which he's not allowed to look inside, from City 192 to City 237, right? So he has to leave the city. And he realizes that his shitty taxi car is not going to be able to make it all of the way to City 237, at least not as of right now. So he goes to his favorite little mechanic shop in the Undercity, or the gutter city, and finds that they've been embroiled in a gang war, and that his favorite mechanics have all been shot to death by various, you know, drug-related, gang-related
So this is like a great mislead, but the audience is like, I guess I'll go to my favorite mechanic shop. We're like, oh, they're gonna meet up, and then he goes to a different shop.
Yeah, he goes to a different shop, he gets there, he pulls in, and he finds that, like, you know, all of my friends, my mechanic friends have been shot to death, you know.
Yep.
He grabs a toolbox, which has, like, a whole bunch of futuristic specialty tools, right? And
Just a wrench.
Just a wrench. It's just a wrench and a blowtorch. That's it. But he grabs, you know...
That's all they need, really, in movies. You just see them, like, blowtorching a hood, and they're like, yep, it's good now.
Yep. It's like in Battlefield, in the video game Battlefield, where your engineer class fixes things. It's just he takes a blowtorch
tool up to it
and holds his as like, yep, it's good. Your tank is now... I've taken out all of the artillery shells that have been shot in your tank. You're good.
It's not on fire anymore. I managed to stop the fire with my blowtorch.
Yeah, I did it, you guys. Don't worry about it. All right? Cool. Go for it. Have fun. Sorry. Yeah. So instead, he is able to find this shitty little mechanic shop, and he doesn't trust anyone who's there. And Jennifer doesn't trust any of the scummy, shady mechanics who are working at this little shop, right? He's like, no, these guys they'll stab me in the back as soon as they see that I have any amount of marks. Jennifer runs into Lance at this shitty little mechanic shop that Lance works at, and is like, sees Lance, can kind of tell that Lance is a bit green. He's a little naive, but he knows what he's doing. He's a good mechanic. So Jennifer enlists Lance. He says, "Hey, Lance, is that your name, Lance?" And Lance would be like, "Yeah." I was like, "Man, lucky fucking guess. All right, I will give you 1,000 marks. 500 now, 500 when we get back, if you come with me on this journey and adventure." If you could tell, Jennifer is a little bit of a piece of shit and is giving Lance the smallest amount of marks as humanly possible. Because
So 1,000 is not a lot. Gotcha.
Well, 1,000 is not a lot when you've been given 10,000 in advance and are going to receive 100,000 when you make the delivery.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot.
Dude's helping out, but he's getting nothing.
Yeah. And he doesn't know he's like, Lance is like, "Oh my God, 1,000 marks? That'll be able to pay for my daughter's surgery. Thank you. Oh my God, this is great. What do I have to do?" All this stuff. He's very excited and very thankful. And Jennifer is kind of annoyed at first at his enthusiasm. He's like, "We have to make a delivery." And it's like, "Really? You need me to help you make a delivery? All right, where are we delivering to?" And Jennifer tells him, "We're delivering at City 237. City 237? That's over 300 miles away. How are we gonna get out of our city? What the hell are you talking about?" He's like, "Trust me, I got a way." So, Lance tentatively agrees to Jennifer's plan, but wants the ability to drop out if they're still in the city. He's like, I'm not 100% about this, but I'll see where it takes me, So he calls up his sickly daughter, and tells her I'm gonna be away for a couple of days, so take care of yourself.
Fun surviving by yourself, 8-year-old child that's gonna die.
8-year-old child with terminal cancer. Have fun. I'm gonna call up
There's Cheerios in the pantry. Good luck.
There's Cheerios. The milk's about to go off, so...
See you in 6 weeks. You have no money, by the way.
Bye. And it's like, I'm going to call up the neighbor. Also, he calls up his neighbor and is like, "Can you check it?" The neighbor that he trusts, not the shitty neighbor.
Maybe the neighbor is like a drug dealer or something, but is like super fun.
Yeah.
So like he calls up the neighbor, and it looks like this really tough guy. He's in like a dark apartment, packaging up his product. He gets the call, but he has like a really he answers with like a really deep voice. He's like, "Hey," and he's like, "Hey, Rob, it's me." And he's like, "Oh, hey," and he like switches to like a really light, happy voice. He's like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "Hey, can you take care of Sally for me for the next few days?" He's like, "Oh yeah," and he's like, No packaging drugs with her." I'm like, no, we'll do that. Not again. Not the last time,
Not the last time. You got really mad at me.
Cancer from the drugs. Yeah, that was bad. Anyway.
No, he didn't give her cancer from the drugs. That would be funny, though. Not after last time, after she snorted all of those Kylaxian crystals and got all that brain cancer. All those brain tumors.
Yep. Kylaxian crystals. You steal that from Rick and Morty?
Did I?
Yeah, I think you did.
Oh shit! I'm sorry, Rick and Morty.
You call it
Zipper.
Gray dust.
Okay, we'll call it gray dust. Not if she snorted all that gray dust on accident. She thought it was the powder that you dip, like, how the candies will come with a powder, like you lick the thing and then dip it in the powder thing and then eat it. She thought it was that, but it was actually all drugs. It wasn't even drugs. Yeah. You're supposed to dip them in your eye. I don't know how she got high from eating it, but she did, so... Yeah.
I don't know, because Doesn't make any sense, actually.
It's supposed to give you brain tumors if you eat it, but I guess that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And Lance is like, fine. It did.
It's like, oh, huh.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, no, he didn't actually get her sick, but you know, something. You could have some funny phone call and then have this tough guy.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Taking care of him.
And he comes over, and we could have like a little, thing where it's like this huge. I am imagining a Dave Bautista-sized man. Tattoos. Maybe he's got one robot eye, and he's got like a huge mohawk or something. It's cool. He's like a big, scary-looking dude, and he knocks on the door, and little Sally walks up. She's like in her blanket, and she's dragging it behind herself. Maybe she's got an IV that she's, attached to, and she shuffles up to the door and opens it, and or she looks through the peephole and sees just blackness, like just the guy standing in front of it, and he's like got a scary t-shirt on or something, and she opens the door, and he looks her right in the eye, and then he takes out something out of his bag, and it's like a Pretty Princess makeover kit, and then they do a Pretty Princess makeover scene where they both do makeovers, and then
all right, back to the story.
Yeah, back to the thing. So Lance and Jennifer, Jennifer contacts one of his Gutter City contacts, who's able to smuggle him out of the city for a price. Of course, everything's for a price in this future. So they're able to get the vehicle, Jennifer's taxi. They're able to get it submerged and part of into the sewage system, right? And they're all airtight vehicles in this future, right? So he's just like going through the sewage system. He pays like 300 marks, and he's able to get their vehicle put into the septic system and is flushed out into what was the ocean, but is now just the entire planet's sewage dump.
Yeah.
Right? So you get, you have this fun action sequence where they're like, Jennifer's, flying the car, trying to dodge all the things, and Lance is like, like he's getting freaked out. He's like, I want to go home. And just as he says that, like, I want to go home, and then it's yell, and they pop out of the tube, and like the taxi's flying through the air. It's really cool. It's cool looking. Jennifer's like got a huge smile on his face. Yeah. Lance is, screaming his head off, holding his head, scared out of his mind. But they eventually land onto an old smuggler's trail that they would use to smuggle drugs, food, water, weapons, pretty much anything that the Undercity wouldn't want you to have. They smuggle in for you, and there's like, oh yeah, I know tons of guys who are all over this area outside of the cities. Like there's like little criminal like towns outside of the cities that people use to smuggle things, but people, like normal everyday people, don't really live out there.
Yeah.
And so Lance is a little taken aback. Like, he's heard about these smugglers and like this criminal organization before, but he's never really experienced it. And I think that's probably where the first episode of the series ends, is they've just escaped the city and they're going off. They're driving into this desolate wasteland. And I know it's supposed to be a wasteland, but I imagine it's filled with vegetation. Like dying, decrepit vegetation that's continuing to grow even though it's dead.
Oh.
So like okay. all the trees are dead. They don't have any leaves or any fruit or anything, but they're still growing. They're still like the weeds are still taking over and stuff like that. Maybe we can throw in some world building about like one of the world-ending events that happened that caused this was the living decay. It was like this genetically engineered disease or virus that targets plant life and causes it to not die but stop producing anything useful, right? So it's
like zombies, but for plants.
Yeah, it's like zombies, but for plants. Yeah, I got ideas. I got good ideas. Occasionally. So, I think that's where the first episode ends, right? Get to the end of the first episode. Well, they're escaping. It's the escape. And the second episode starts, in the middle of a firefight, all right? Lance is firing a gun randomly and rapidly outside of the side window of the car as, Jennifer is trying to evasive maneuver his way out of the way of these street pirates, all right? Okay. There are these pirates of the future that don't conform to any rules, any laws, not even the laws of criminality that seemingly lead most of the people who live outside of the dome cities. These guys don't even give a shit about that stuff. They're like, no one's going to tell us what to do. The world's over. It's ended, and we're going to do what we fucking like because this is the future. We got lasers. We got pirate cars. So they have the same, and I don't know if you've noticed that I've mentioned this, but all the vehicles are hover. Everything hovers. I
figured because it's a floating city. Yeah, they're not floating, but there's levels to the city. It's got depth.
Yeah, so they're all
so they
hovering.
Flying through space. They just hovering, not space as in the sky, but space as in the air. They're flying through the air. Or they just hovering above the ground.
I think they're just hovering above the ground. Like the vehicles don't hit the ground. They don't touch the ground, but they need.
It's like a foot or two.
Yeah, they need a couple of feet. They need something below them in order to hover off of something, right?
Okay.
They need something below them. So they're hovering, Jennifer's trying to do evasive maneuvers. The pirates are firing. They've got these huge hover vehicles.
So we got a Mad Max-esque sequence.
Yeah, it's Mad Max.
Shooting, running away, lots of driving, big scary cars.
Big scary cars, Mad Max style, but everything's hovering. And Jennifer is like, these guys are fucking crazy. The world hasn't ended, and he's firing out of the side window. The world hasn't ended. I went to fucking CVS yesterday. How has the world ended if CVS is still around? He's like, The world's not over, you idiots. But these guys are determined, and they're like, we're gonna take what we want. We're gonna kill you guys. And they're, sort of angry pirate dudes.
Sort of angry, yeah.
Yeah, they're a little angry. They're just a little mad. A little mad. And so these guys are, they're running away. They're trying to get away. And Jennifer is like, I'm out of ideas. I don't know how to lose these pricks. And Lance is using his mechanics knowledge to be like, most hover vehicles still have some amount of oil that is inside of their, thing, inside of the vehicle, even though we don't use it anymore because of the hovering. So he's able to break off, take out the oil container. And he's like, and funny thing about oil, it's very flammable. So he makes a Molotov cocktail out of the oil container and lights it on fire, throws it into the, pirate's face, blows up their vehicle, destroys it. Their big truck is brought to a halt, and so our two heroes are able to escape. They're able to, drive on through to the other side, right?
Okay, yeah.
And we establish then that it's our one of the bad guys of the series, because this is an action sci-fi stuff. One of the bad guys of the series is the pirate that Lance threw the Molotov oil thing into.
Oh, and blew up. His face is all burned, and he's all fucked up.
He was already a pirate, but he's like, I'm all fucked up now because I got a burned up face. Maybe he's got some sort of decoration or something that he hangs in his car. And as the car exploded and he swerved, it went into his eye.
Oh, so now he's got a big fuzzy dye as an eye.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a big fuzzy dice as one of his eyes. And he's like, call me Dye.
Yeah.
Call me Andrew Dye Clay. Because Andrew Dice Clay. No, fuck, whatever. Somebody will get it. No one will get it.
Not me, so no one probably.
Yeah, probably not. So, they're driving, and they eventually make it to one of these criminal settlements, one of the outposts that are run by the criminal organization of this world.
Yeah.
And they get there, and Jennifer is able to, talk his way into safe passage. They're like, hey, maybe he recognizes or knows one of the people who's working there, so he's able to, get some safe passage, right? But just as, and they get there, they spend the night, they have drinks, maybe there's a prostitute that Jennifer makes friends with. Lance is too busy missing his lost lady love, who abandoned him and his daughter, but he still loves her because he's bad at giving things up, Holds on to the past rather than looking to the future. So he's like, no, she'll find us. She'll find me one day. And so they're asleep. They're asleep. Jennifer's making friends with that prostitute. They're getting drunk. It's a party. They're all asleep. Everyone's asleep. And then, just as everyone is fast asleep at 3 a.m., that's when not a roving gang of pirates, but a seemingly organized military force is able to sneak up and attack the criminal outpost that these two men have found themselves. And they don't have any sort of insignia or design on them, but they're very obviously organized military. They have better equipment, they have better discipline and firepower than everybody else there. So the criminals are being torn through like a hot knife through butter. They're getting their shit pushed in by these guys. But in all of the confusion, Jennifer and Lance are able to make their escape. And just as, maybe we could have them making their escape and the pirates showing up, so that there could be a fight between the pirates and the military guys, as maybe some of our other criminal friends are able to get the fuck out of there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we get there, they're still driving, and I'm thinking that this is kind of it's a little bit of a road trip series, right? So if you have any ideas for a road trip, sci-fi adventure thing, I'm all ears. Yeah, through the wasteland.
You definitely gotta do monsters and other. You gotta definitely show the different apocalyptic events, probably different reasons. Maybe there's monsters because they're like, oh yeah. Maybe we can use Jennifer as the character that sort of explains the world. Yeah. Because Lance doesn't know a lot of things. He's like, there was a scientist who made a bunch of Frankensteins, and they all went crazy and took over a part of the world, and they just rampage around and stuff.
Maybe there could be it's a weird, they're Frankensteins but they're monsters, so they Frankenstein an elephant together with a giraffe and a tiger or whatever. I don't know. So they have all sorts of weird animal parts that are Frankenstein together to make a huge monster, and they're maybe even that the Frankensteins are that could be their names. Can Jennifer just call them? Some scientist fucking 50 years ago made a bunch of Frankensteins, and they killed him.
Maybe pronounce it wrong. He made a bunch of Frankensteins, and all the Frankensteins are going everywhere.
Yeah. And
just to piss people off, say Frankenstein. I think that'd be funny.
Yeah.
Bunch of Frankensteins.
Wait, what's the one from Young Frankenstein?
Yeah, what about it?
Frankenstein. He made a bunch of Frankensteins, and they've just been tearing through. And maybe we can reveal in an episode that these Frankensteins actually do have their own civilization and society that they've developed over the decades, Because the scientist not only stitched together their bodies, but he also stitched their brains together with human brains, so they have a level of intelligence that wasn't previously available to them.
Yeah. And they have really good food.
They have amazing food, right? The best food. And they're like, what do you make this out of? And we're like, we
don't really want to know.
We're just going to keep that a little secret for the Frankensteins.
Dash of secret dust.
and
It's
a
drugs.
little it's drugs. It's drugs and a little dash of people. We put people in it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
You're
It's
eating.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Calm down. So they're able to make friends with them. Maybe there's a fight. Maybe they're going on. Maybe they make friends with some of them. Maybe make friends with like a Frankenstein, and they get there and they're like, "Yeah, you have to help us stop this rampaging lunatic. He's been infected by the what did I call the zombie plant thing?
The zombie plant thing.
The decay,
The
living decay,
living decay. Yeah.
the growing decay. I don't know, the living decay.
Living decay is better than growing decay.
Yeah. He's been infected by the living decay and he's completely lost it. No one's able to talk to him. Usually Frankensteins just attack humans, but this guy, he's gone off the deep end and he's killing everybody and we can't stop him.
Yeah.
And so Lance and Jennifer are given this little side quest to like go kick this guy's ass and blow him up. And they're like, they've discovered that the living decay that he's been infected with wasn't a natural incident that he was infected with this disease. It was actually implanted in him by this secretive military organization that has been hunting them. They find like a weird like tranquilizer dart, but instead of tranquilizer juice, it was filled with
The
growing
living
decay. The living decay.
That's
that
weird
had been,
because then you have zombie human thing being hit with the zombie virus, so it makes him a double zombie.
it makes him a double plant zombie. It's weird. This is a weird universe that we've created.
That could be a good line. It'll be Lance. He'll be like, "They have double zombies now," and then the other
They
dude will
have
be
double zombies now, and then Jennifer gets hit with a trunk because I imagine this guy is he's like a big elephant man, like a big elephant guy, right? But they're like, what the hell is happening? Why is this military organization, causing so much ruckus out in the wasteland? They haven't put together the idea that maybe they're being hunted by this military organization.
They're like, these guys are just fucking everywhere.
Yeah, like Jennifer has kept the package, kept how he got the package to himself. He doesn't tell Lance that it was this bedraggled scientist guy who had just obviously been stabbed or shot or whatever. He just keeps that section of it to himself because Jennifer's a prick.
Mysterious.
But mostly just a dick.
Keeps to himself.
Yeah. Selfish to an extent that is a little ridiculous, but he doesn't want a kid to die, so that's part of it. So they're driving. They go through on some other adventures we can figure out once this show gets picked up.
Yeah.
And they eventually get to City 237, and they find that it's everything that was bad about City 192, their home city, is 10 times worse in City 237. It's basically in never-ending martial law, where the Undercity is this hugely protected, tiny population of extraordinarily rich people that have these drones with assault rifles and explosives, and they have robots to guard them, and they've taken control of this whole city, and not in any sort of, they're not letting the people live in any sort of normal life. So basically the entire city is the gutter city. It's entirely filled to the brim with people, shoulder to shoulder. Criminals run rampant. Martial law is been declared. The police forces, which are mostly made up of robots at this point in time, are just executing people in the street. And Jennifer and Lance are able to barter passage into this city with the other criminal organizations that they've come into contact with. Maybe Lance or maybe Jennifer throughout this entire thing has been slowly losing that 10,000 mark early.
The
what's it called?
What do they give up front bonus? signing.
Yeah. He's losing that. He's lost that throughout the adventure, slowly bartering or paying for things, you know, getting gas and refueling and damages, repairs, paying for making friends with that prostitute, all that sorts of stuff. He's lost it. And this is his last, like, you know, 200 marks. And that's all he has left. And he uses it to get inside of the city. He hasn't told Lance that he's out of money yet. He's just like, you know, whatever. So Lance and Jennifer are, you know, they have instructions on where to meet the person to give them this package. And they, you know, they get all hooded up. They put on their hoods and their cloaks and stuff to look as inconspicuous as possible. And they go, and I'm imagining they meet, they like go to apartment 237, level 692, A, B, and 3. You know, whatever. It's like this weird list of numbers. They eventually get there. They knock on the door. And just as like a guy opens the door, he's like this weeny little tiny scientist. You know, he's skinny and he's decrepit and he looks really paranoid. And he's like, you know, it does that thing where it has you know how doors have that chain lock.
Yeah.
You know, that people always use in movies for shorthand to imply that somebody's very paranoid. At the chain lock. It's like that, but it's instead of a chain lock, it's an entire laser grid that goes all over the door.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just one line, it's all over it. And he's like, Jennifer holds out the package. As soon as the guy sees it, his eyes go wide, and he's like, oh my God, you need to get in here. He unlocks all the locks, gets him in, and they can see that this guy has obviously not left his apartment in months.
It smells bad.
It smells bad. There's jars on the ground that are filled with yellow liquid. There's other jars that are on the ground that are filled with brown liquid. They don't want to know. They're not asking any questions. They see that this food replicator has been stuck on, like, I don't know, what's a bad food to eat
mac
every
and
day?
cheese.
Yeah, it's been stuck on mac and cheese, so it's just got this huge.
Oh, you know what? I got one better. It's the marshmallow sweet potato dish you eat on Thanksgiving.
Okay, yeah, it's that. It's what's it called? Yeah.
No idea what it's called.
Sweet potato casserole.
Yeah, sweet potato casserole.
It's sweet potato casserole that's just constantly pouring out of this food replicator, and he's just got like a Tupperware, like
a big
stacks and
50-gallon
stacks
bucket.
Maybe he's got a bag, like, you know, a big, huge plastic bag. Yeah, like a huge trash bag. He's just like, yeah, it's delicious. All the marshmallows are at the bottom. That's where that's what I eat. I like them. I like the marshmallows. You know, he's a weird little creep. And Lance gives him the package, and the guy says thank you, takes it, and then walks away, seemingly completely unaware that there was any amount of payment that was being implied. Yeah. And Jennifer starts being like, where's my 100,000 marks? It's 100,000 marks? I don't have look at where I live. I don't have 100,000 marks. And Jennifer like puts him up against the wall. Like, I've lost fucking everything. All 10,000 of it that I got at the beginning of this are gone. And Lance is like, what? It's all gone? Like, yeah, it's all 10,000?
Gone. I was getting 1,000.
Yeah. And he's like, he's angry. And he's like, that was just a lie to get you here. I don't have 100,000 marks. The only place you can get 100,000 marks would be the Undercity, and that place is a goddamn fortress. You're not getting any money, but because you have come this far and risked so much, I will tell you what is in here. You know, what's in this package.
Oh my God, it's gonna be really stupid.
She opens it, and it's this tiny little bauble, right? It's like that big. I'm showing Jake a picture. It looks like
an outlet.
Can you describe it? It's like an outlet yo-yo.
Outlet yo-yo. Okay, that's essentially what it is.
It's an outlet yo-yo, and he said, and they basically have the same reaction you just had. Like, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
What? You said we flew all this fucking way, nearly died half a dozen times for you to have a fucking outlet yo-yo, and they're like, no, this is my infinite energy machine. You know, once I plug this in, it's a machine that is creates infinite energy. What's that called? When something just goes on forever?
It's infinite?
It's,
I don't know what
it's
you're
just,
talking about.
No, but it's something. There's a special science. Yeah. Okay. Fine. This is a device that creates an infinite amount of energy. All right.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, who gives a shit? And we're like, no, don't you understand? The Undercity has a monopoly on the energy that we are able to use. That's how they can so effectively control us. They can turn off an entire neighborhood, an entire sector's energy just like that. They don't have to, you know, they don't report to anyone. So we have to do what they say with this. With this device, we'll be, and then he's shot through the neck, right?
Yeah.
Shot through the neck just as he's explaining what they'll be able to do. And just as, you know, it's an arrow. It's, right?
It's Hawkeye.
It's not, yeah, it's Hawkeye. It's Hawkeye. It's like a bolt, right? So it's not immediate. He's not immediately dead. And he falls to the ground. He hands the device to Lance, and with his own blood on the ground, he's able to write out, like, a name. You know? Just a first name. And that's the end
of the show.
No, it's not the end of the show. It's the end of the episode. Roll credits. And I think the next couple of episodes, they're, you know, around the city trying to survive in this martial law wasteland city. And they eventually find this guy and realize that he is the head of the resistance that's trying to take back the city. Mm-hmm. And his
name's Luke Skywalker.
His name is Luke Skywalker. His name is Luke Panties, and he is such a dumb name, Luke Panties, and he is determined to take back the city because his entire family was, you know, murdered by the paramilitary organization that runs this city, and it's revealed that the organization that's been hunting them throughout the entirety of the show is been the Undercity, because they know what they have, and they know that they want it. So, and then they're like, you know, here's all these things, here's what's happening. Jennifer is like, all right, where's my 100,000 credits? I was like, I don't have 100,000 credits for you. All right, man, look at us. Do we look like we have 100,000 marks to spare? All right. So he just like, but I know that you've come a long way. I know you've done a lot. Here. And he puts, you know, 10,000 marks on the table. And he's like, that's the best we can do, but it's all you're gonna get. And Jennifer's like, fucking fine. And takes it, hands Lance his 500, and says, come on, Lance, let's get the hell out of here. And Lance, at this point, has been radicalized. He's like, no, I'm not leaving. I'm going to help them take back this city. Because if it can happen here, it can happen anywhere. And I want a better world for my daughter, right?
Yep.
Cut back. It's the big, scary Dave Bautista guy and his daughter doing the makeup. Mm-hmm. You know, pretty princess makeover kit. It's fun. And so, you know, we do a classic... They do a thing. They do a siege of the Undercity. You know, there's a frontal assault that is meant to distract them as Lance and the other members of the core crew are sneaking into the Undercity through the what you call it, sewers. You know, through backways, and they're sneaking in, and they're able to disconnect the power, but not before, you know, they're all at gunpoint. There's a huge group of this military organization, and they're like, there's no way you can get away. And then Jennifer steals back in on his cool ass taxi that has been renovated, and
classic
like
Han Solo comes back.
Classic Han Solo, but much more violent. He's like, he does a drift and drifts the hover taxi in such a way that it smashes into everybody in that line of paramilitary guys. So he like snaps off all their legs. Oh, God. And there's just because he's a bad guy. He's violent, and he's like shooting guys, and he's, you know, being an adventuring dude. And they eventually get there and able to free the city from the, from the Neanderthalic clutches of this oligarchical monopoly.
Oh, and all the Ewoks come out and they celebrate.
Yeah. Well, they're all happy, but
heads.
Lance and Jennifer are like, we have to go back to our city. Like, we have stuff to do, you know? And now that we have the technology to give the people the power, we have to take it. And it's like, well, we don't have a second one. This is the only one we have. So, and then they're like pushed out of the city, thrown out, you know? Shot out of the sewer in their taxi again. They're like, I can't believe they fucking kicked us out again. And I was like, yeah, well, we gotta get home. We gotta get you home, Lance. Your daughter's probably missing you something fierce. And that's how the series ends, you know? They're driving away. But there's always some, you know, it's a season 2. There's season 2 bait there. The whole of the military organization hasn't been destroyed. The pirates with the pirate with the fuzzy dice eye, still out there. Mm-hmm. So, you know,
and he doesn't have any money to help his daughter anymore.
I mean, well, no, because Jennifer got that 10,000, and Jennifer's like, I'll give you some. It's okay. I like you.
He paid him because you said you're gonna pay him 500 now and then 500 when he got there. Yeah. He did not get the 500 when he got there because he lost all of his money.
That is true.
So he only has 500.
But then he received the 10,000 from the resistance leader.
I see.
And then gave him the 500. It's like, you know what? You saved my life enough. I'll help you and your daughter. You know, that's what they've turned. They both learned something.
Okay.
Yeah. So then that's how the series ends. And then, you know, of course, sequel bait.
Song plays at the end as they drive away.
Yeah. What song should play? All Along the Watchtower
by Bob Dylan.
All Along the Watchtower by Bob Dylan.
Oh, we both went with Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix version or Bob Dylan version? Bob Dylan fits a more somber mood, I feel like.
Yeah.
So it might
maybe
be better.
we do an All Along the Watchtower Bob Dylan version when they escape the city.
Yeah.
And then as they're heading back to the city, we do a Jimi Hendrix version.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's my show.
It's a good show.
Thank you. Drop Off Dangerously is the name of the show.
I'll give it a 16.
Yeah. Thanks. Out of what?
It's the joke.
Okay, good. I got a 16, folks. And that's either really bad or fine. It's no universe in which it's really good.
It could be. Who knows?
If it's out of 17, that's pretty good.
Could be out of 100.
It could be out of 100. It could be out of 1,000.
Could be out of 10. That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be really good. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you all for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles Long. With me, as always, been my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and gunner, and good friend, Kanye East. Thank you again, Kanye, for making your debut podcasting appearance on this podcast. Too bad we had to fire Jake in order to make this happen, but you know what? I'd say it was worth it. Right, Kanye?
Charlie, I'm going to remind you again. So Kanye, we actually couldn't get his audio.
No.
He was talking throughout the entire podcast, but he forgot to hit record, so I'm sorry that you didn't hear Kanye's voice, and we dubbed me in instead.
Okay,
so that's why Charlie was talking to Kanye the whole time, and not me.
Yeah, well, thank you anyway, Jake. That's probably for the best. I feel like he would have just gone off about some crazy thing. Kanye would have. I mean, but if you like,
he was actually very respectful.
Oh, good.
He really liked the show.
Was he very reasonable?
He was a very reasonable pilot. Roll credits. Play the song. You do not know our song.
No, I don't know the song.
Right,
but if you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, follow, like, subscribe, tell your friend, tell your enemy, tell your dog. Goodbye. I love you all. I hope you have a good day. Jake already said goodbye. He's not going to say it again. Bye. No.